Welcome back to another episode of Let's Have a Sip. I'm your host, Sean Drinks. And we're live. My next drink is, it's a pretty damn good one. So it's from Penelope. And if you know anything about Penelope, you know that it tastes fucking amazing. This is a specific bottle that was selected by Dallas Bourbon Club. And, you know, it's just good as fuck. That's all I have to say about that. So I've been drinking on this quite a bit today. And, shout out to Bobby Sauce. You know, it's a nickname. His last name is Saucedo or some shit like that. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. But, I'm wearing his shirt right now. It says, "I survived the winter of severe illness and death." It's pretty interesting. So I'm also perpetually lit right now. And if you know anything about Bobby Sauce, then you probably know what that means. I'm also kind of lit at the same time. So anyways, my next guest is one of my very good friends. And he's a fucking gangster. Tyler Gibson. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Hell yeah. I haven't seen your ass in
It's been a minute.
It's been forever. It's been so long. I'm happy that you were able to come on.
Briefly in Cleveland, I feel like I stopped by like a couple of years ago, saw where you were living. Just came out. You were living out in the middle of like bumfuck nowhere.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was I had just transitioned into, getting a promotion with my job, and I was still trying to get myself on my feet, if you will. And I was living with a buddy. Shout out to Matt Tinsley. I was living with a buddy, and he lived out in Old Fort. So it was Old Fort. So it was out in just past Cleveland, Tennessee, and it had so much fucking land out there, man. Like it was probably he had about 300 acres or so. And, every once in a while, we'd go out there and just shoot guns. You just have fun. We're in the country, It's one of those places where you walk outside and you're like, I'm just going to pee in my front lawn today. So, yep. So, but yeah, it's been a minute.
That was a few years ago. So I haven't seen you since.
Yeah, no doubt. And so now I know you just recently moved to North Carolina, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you just recently got married, which is, to me, it blows my mind. I'm like, holy shit.
Coming from Storms and Hicks Hall to married now, kid on the way. Crazy.
Yeah. So if anybody knows our relationship, which we just had some fucking crazy times when we were in school. That shit was crazy.
I mean, nobody did it crazier than we did.
No. So, people would probably think we're just like
people think there's something really fucking wrong with us. If you walked by the second floor of Hicks on any random weekday and you just walked by our room, you would think there's some really weird shit going on in there.
Oh yeah, no doubt. They're like, what kind of what kind of mammals are mating in there right now? You got fucking hippos, and are there some hippos in there right now? What's happening?
And that was just a regular day.
Yeah, it was just a regular Tuesday, just getting back from the cafeteria. So good times.
Great times. The best of times. I miss those times.
I do too, man. Like, I just look back and I'm like, that was more than a decade. Well, actually, it was more than a decade ago. And I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
I look back, I think, living in, for some reason, Hicks stands out. I mean, I know we lived together in like O'Bannon and Storms, but for some reason, Hicks, when we lived there and that in that room there, that one always stands out with Paul, James, you, me, Aaron. Something about it.
Yeah,
I think we had gotten used to turning it up everywhere we went. Like we started in O'Bannon, everything. We were freshmen, everything's cool. Then we moved to Storms and we started turning up a little bit. We lived with Orion, and then by the third year, we turned up all the time. So we just took it to a whole new level.
Yeah, I look back and I'm like, why did I drink as much as I did? Like, I did some stupid ass shit whenever I was in college. I'm sure a lot of people did. Yeah, just that's the shit that you do. So I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day. It was probably somebody that one of my coworkers or something. I don't remember, but um, this is super random. But I remember drinking whatever the tallest available selection of Red Bull that you can get. I don't know, 32 ounces, whatever, 24. I don't know what it is. I had two of those, and at the time, I didn't really drink a lot of um, energy drinks or uppers or whatever you want to call them. And, I'd mix that with vodka because that was like my thing back in college, Red Bull vodka, which is terrible. I mean,
And it
alcohol
was
in
like
general.
Burnett's too,
Yeah. I was like,
like the cheapest.
no, it was top shelf, man. Burnett's,
Yeah.
That's all I could afford. And, I remember drinking both of those and then just mixing it with, as you said, brunettes. And I don't know if you remember, but I was like, I can't fucking sleep. Like we got back to the dorm, and I was like, I can't fucking sleep. And you're like, just shut the fuck up and go to bed. And I was like, I can't. My heart's I'm gonna shit my heart out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, no. So good times for sure. But
Great
I'm
time.
glad that I don't drink as much as I used to. So that's fucking
Well,
terrible.
I find that hard to believe now that you're the whiskey guy. I feel like you drink even more now.
Yeah, no, that's funny that it's very interesting that I'm into bourbon as much as I am now, and I don't really drink as much as I used to, which is it's funny to say, but it probably people are like, you're full of shit. You actually probably drink more, which I tend to try not to drink too much during the week, and and I put this in quotes. I try to save those moments with for the weekend to enjoy what it is that I'm drinking, like this Penelope right now or whatever. That way I can kind of enjoy it a little bit more versus drinking so much to the point to where I get desensitized and I can't really appreciate what is actually in that bottle. And that's something that I've tried to learn as I've gotten older is like, we'll take going out to eat, for instance. I've talked about this before on the podcast as well. It's like, I want to enjoy what it is that I'm eating and try to keep it slow and understand what it is that I'm eating and understand like why do I like it or why do I not like it. It's the same thing with bourbon as well. Like I try to just sip on it, understand like why is it that I like what is it about that profile that I like or don't like and whatnot. So, but yeah,
So how many bottles of whiskey do you go through a week?
how many I barely go through any of my bottles. I mean,
That's
I
why you have
have
so many, I guess.
exactly. So I probably hunt more than I actually drink my juice. So so right now I probably have about 140 bottles. And then I've always liked bourbon. I would say like probably around 2015 was whenever I first like started getting interested in it a little bit more, but I haven't really dived into it until I actually moved to Texas because whenever I was um in Tennessee, I was typically like traveling for work and stuff like that. And, I wasn't really like buying stuff and bringing it back to where I was living because I was always fucking traveling. So I was like, I don't want to carry this shit around. And then I moved to Texas and then it was just like fucking, I went ham. I was like, I'm buying fucking everything because the availability in here in Dallas is like, it's pretty fucking good if you know where to go.
Don't they
So
have like drive-through liquor stores like you just pull around to the window and just you're gone in like 30 seconds?
that's fucking New Orleans, man. That's a drive-through daiquiri shops.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I don't know anything about drive-through liquor stores in Dallas. If that is available in Dallas, I'm not aware of it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so now whenever I asked you to come onto the podcast, we're like, what are we gonna talk about? And I'm like, well, what are we gonna talk about, Tyler? So I know that you're and I mean you can correct me however you want. I don't really know how else to put this, but like you're aware that you're in the matrix, if you will. If that makes sense.
That's pretty well said. We are in a matrix.
So do you want to kind of speak on exactly what it is that I'm trying to say?
I mean I can try. It's very hard to articulate. Um, I'm a better writer than I am speaker, but I will try to articulate it a little bit. And when we say living in a matrix, it's just wild as an adult now to look back on the things that we were taught and brought up to believe as kids about just anything, society, the way the world works, history, everything. And as an adult, you look at it and you're like, wow, a lot of this stuff is BS. Like it's total just like fabrication. And it's kind of like, have you ever seen the show, the movie The Truman Show with Jim Carrey?
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes it almost feels like you're living in like a completely controlled environment, and it's crazy because especially social media now has opened up um, so many more doors into that, so you can kind of see the manipulation behind stuff. And when I say manipulation, I mean literally. I feel like everything is manipulated and managed, and it's just kind of like the world is a stage, the world is a theater, and we're just sort of watching as everything unfolds. Take literally any uh, any major news story over the last couple of years, COVID, the whole George Floyd thing, all those things are, I believe, they're managed, they're set up, they're planned. They're not just like spontaneous random events. And I could get in further into like the whole agenda behind it. It's pretty wild when you break it down. Um,
Break that
but
shit down, man. I want to hear it. Well, because I find this stuff super interesting. Like, have you ever like? Let's take QAnon for example. Like, it's such a like in your face kind of thing. And
yeah,
so, have you ever seen QAnon Into the Storm? I think it was on HBO Max or something.
no, I've not.
I'm surprised you haven't. Well, once we get off here, I'll make sure that I'll see where it's like which streaming application it's on. I'll let you know. But it's essentially like all about QAnon, and I just find that shit interesting. But anyways, I digress. So
Yeah, yeah, that stuff is interesting. It's very interesting to me. I actually don't have a lot of time to research it like I would, like I would like to, just because I would like to, learn more about it. But I don't think that there's any. I don't think anybody is. People like to like hate on conspiracy theorists and label them like, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist," blah blah blah. I don't think that anybody is. I don't think anybody's 100% right, but I also don't think that they're 100% wrong either. So it's kind of up to us to kind of just sort of sort through the bullshit and figure out. I don't believe every single word that all these conspiracy theorists say, but I don't discredit anything they say either. I'm very open minded, and um, I'm open minded to anything really. Like if you would have told me uh, 2 years ago that fast forward 2 years, I'd be open minded to the Earth being flat. I would have laughed at you and been crazy. Now I don't know anymore. I really don't. Like I can't say for sure because if you think about the way that um, like literally everything, like NASA, everything has just been controlled, manipulated, managed. Um, it's I don't know what to believe anymore. Like straight up, it's kind of
yeah,
scary.
yeah, it's a weird thing to think about. Like, yeah, no, it's pretty fucking scary to think about all that shit.
Like why don't they why don't they let anyone go to Antarctica? Why don't they let anyone down there? It's literally like a global felony if you're found anywhere close to Antarctica. It's only for like scientific research purposes only.
Wait, really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. You can't go to Antarctica. Why? There's a lot of people that say it's because there's an ice wall and that the Earth is flat and that literally we're surrounded by an ice wall and we live in a dome in a firmament and that the the moon and the sun and those are spinning, but we are not. We're flat and we're still.
The Simpsons were not lying when they were talking about that. I feel like that was a Simpsons episode.
Yeah. So I'm not saying the world is flat. I don't know, but I'm not saying it's not either.
Yeah, yeah. You question everything
I
essentially.
question everything now. I literally
Yeah.
question everything. So
Okay, so what do you think about? Because we were talking about this whenever you first came on. What do you think about Jeremy Corbell and Bob Lazar?
to be honest, I don't really know those names too much. And here's another thing, especially when it comes into the like the whole truther community conspiracy theory world, I feel like you have to really, really weed through some of these talking heads. And what I mean by that is you obviously have the major news networks, the major media like CNN, Fox, all those, and then you have people on the internet, kind of like then you kind of go lower. You have like Joe Rogan. Um, it's become really obvious to me now actually how all of that is just stage theater. And even when I talk about Joe Rogan as well, I agree with a lot of things that he says, but I think he's controlled opposition too. And what I mean by that is people are controlled. Somebody is pulling somebody's strings in some way, and so I take everything I hear with a grain of salt now. So there's
Okay.
very few people that actually really listen to on the internet.
Okay. So what makes you think that Joe Rogan is to a degree controlled?
When you have that big of a platform like that, you got to be controlled. When you have that major of a reach and an influence, they're not going to let you get off, saying just anything. But he is, if you look at it as you're the director of a play or a theater, and you're staging. Let's say you're staging a conflict. So you've got good guys and you got bad guys. Joe Rogan's playing the good guy, but he's still taking orders from his director, who's got him up on stage, orchestrating all that. So you have to have, if you're trying to create the illusion of a war, you got to have players on both sides. So I agree with a lot of things that he says, but I think he's controlled.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really know what to think about it because I'm like I have no fucking idea. But it's just interesting to talk about
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
So, um, but so you're familiar with like we'll take and this is an extreme example because I don't really know anyone else outside of like the conspiracy theory realm other than like Alex Jones.
Hmm.
So you're familiar with him, right?
Vaguely, I don't even know too much about him. I've actually just started hearing about him more and more lately. Um, like I said, there's only like a select handful of people that I really really listen to, and they're like nobodies that you never even really heard of.
Okay, so what's like let's say okay, what's the most outlandish thing that you've heard of and you're like, "You know what? I think I probably fucking believe that."
The most outlandish. It it's I mean, nothing really blows my mind anymore. Like, you could literally say anything and nothing's gonna, like, really, like, shake me. But, I mean, just the
Oh,
whole earth is flat concept, that's pretty wild. Like, what if it really is and we've literally like, NASA is in on it, all the global elites, all the major governments, like, everybody has been in on this, like, lie, like, from the very beginning, and the earth is flat, and it's just
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, well, so have you seen those, like, videos of, like, people confronting, like, Buzz Aldrin about, like,
Yes.
Apollo, what is it, 13 or whatever?
Mhm, yeah, and he said, like, "We never went."
Yeah, so, I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know exactly what he meant by that. I've seen, with the moon landing too, like, I've seen so many things. Like, I personally, I don't think we went to the moon. Why haven't we been back? That was how many years ago? Why haven't we been back?
You know, it's, yeah, no, that's, it's I mean, it's a fucking weird thing to think about. It's like, yeah, why haven't we been back?
You know
I
the
don't know.
director, Stanley Kubrick?
I've heard the name. I'm not super familiar with, like, what he's directed.
He's directed, quite a few films. He had a, what was it? The Shining. Have you ever heard that movie? The
Well,
Shining?
yeah, yeah.
He's
I was actually just I just got back from Denver last week, and like the Shining Hotel is actually just outside of Denver.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
right. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So,
There is what's the name of that hotel?
oh shoot, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'm not sure.
So I actually haven't even seen the movie The Shining, but I did recently just see a movie. It was called something in room. I don't know what the room number was, but it was the room number of a hotel in
Ru-
that.
Room 1408 or something with John Cusack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Did you watch that?
yeah. It was like where he like went into the room and like he went to like time stood still, or like he went to a different universe or some shit.
It's basically that film was basically talking about how Stanley Kubrick used The Shining to kind of like subliminally send the message, like we didn't go to the moon.
I've never heard of that before. Explain that. I don't really understand.
Um, I'll actually send you like where to watch the movie because that movie it kind of covers like a few different topics, but when it actually talks about the moon landing being fake and everything, I'll send you that. But basically, there's so many like scenes in there where he's kind of like sending like subliminal messaging. Like I know that there's a couple scenes where the kid is riding around the hotel on like a big wheel and the camera's following him and it's showing him all this stuff, and then he's up on a different floor, and the carpet is kind of the carpet symbolizes stuff, and the sweater that the kid is wearing, it's like a NASA spaceship sweater. When you go to open the door to the room, whichever, I can't remember the room number, but first of all, the number meant something, and then the whatever the thing that was written on the key, that said something too, and it was a lot of things that a lot of people are speculating that he was saying that we didn't land on the moon, and he was even the footage of the actual NASA footage of us landing on the moon was I believe Stanley Kubrick was the one that was supposedly the guy who filmed that footage. So
Wait,
I'll send you all this stuff. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy. It's
what?
crazy. Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying so. The people in that movie, they're not in that documentary. Really, is what it is. They they're not saying that the moon landing was fake, but they're saying the footage is definitely fake, and they can prove it because of the way uh, they're experts with that kind of like film screen, and they said they can spot it, so easily. They can tell that this footage, whatever it is, this is not real footage. So they're not saying we didn't go to the moon, but they said this footage, the videos that we're watching, are done in a studio. So it's pretty wild.
I don't really even know what to think. That's just
Me neither.
like what the fuck?
Yeah. I'll send you that, and let me know what you think about it because it's wild. But yeah, Stanley Kubrick, he was um, in charge of like developing that footage of us supposedly going to the moon. He's also a famous movie director as well.
Mhm.
Um, have you ever seen? Well, I'll kind of come back to that. Have you ever seen the movie Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise?
Yeah, yeah, where it's like they're like kind of like a Illuminati-esque kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
party and stuff like yeah.
He directed that too. That's Stanley Kubrick as well.
Okay.
Right after that movie released, he was actually killed pretty shortly after that.
Oh, so
Um,
I didn't even realize he was dead.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
they wanted him gone bad because he was notorious for kind of like signal coding in his movies, um, and he said a little too much in that movie, and he was gone. They had
Well,
his ass whacked.
I don't even know what to say. Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Have you so have you heard of now, I think it's has since been taken off of YouTube because YouTube censors a lot of shit. But hopefully they don't YouTube no, hopefully they don't censor this shit. It's not like I'm some like big fucking platform or whatever, but you never know. But so there was I think it's like maybe like a 30-minute or a 40-minute like little documentary, and it's called Watch the Water. Have you heard of that?
I've not.
Oh fuck yeah. So I don't know if you'll be able to watch it now. I know that it was on YouTube and then it was on Rumble at one point. Are you familiar with Rumble?
I am. Yeah, I haven't
Okay,
used
so
it, but I know what it is.
so essentially it was pretty much like about COVID and how the media portrayed what was going on and then essentially like what was actually, and I put this in quotes, what was actually going on because like I don't fucking know. There was some sort of agenda obviously behind like everything that was going on, but like I don't fucking know. But anyways, it was essentially about like COVID, and I need to find out where like where that's at or if it's even still available. But it was super fucking interesting, and I think you would need to watch it for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely send me that. I'd like to see it.
Well,
I'm
fuck if I can find it because it's not on
yeah,
YouTube anymore. But if it's
yeah,
on if it's on Rumble, it's called Watch the Water. Watch the Water. So
yeah.
yeah,
All right, I'll definitely try and find it.
you better.
So, what are your thoughts on the whole COVID thing?
Mm, so
Is it is it as they said it was, or do you think there's something else going on?
well, so now personally, I think there was something else going on, and my fiance gets very upset at me about certain things. Um, Whenever I'm talking about COVID and stuff like that, because like if I don't know what it is. Like if I see someone wearing a mask, I'm like, why are you wearing a mask? Like why?
Especially when they're wearing it in their car by themselves. I have to point and laugh. I have to point and laugh whenever I drive past somebody in the other lane and they're in their car by themselves wearing their mask. I'm like, what a dumbass.
Yeah, well, like I want to respect other people's opinions, but at the same time, I'm like, so like one thing I never want to do is like just because I have a different opinion than you does not mean that we can't be friends. I never want that to happen. I feel like that's childish. I think it's childish, but like at the same time, I'm like, if you're doing something like that, like what you just described, is like, okay, like what are you doing? So,
Yeah, yeah.
but um, like, what do I think about COVID and all that stuff? I mean,
The origins.
I don't really know exactly like what happened. I mean, there's probably some people out there that definitely know what happened. There's no way they don't, but um, I
Did you know that the lab that it supposedly was released from in Wuhan was funded and sponsored by Dr. Fauci?
well, no, I can't say that I may have heard that. I mean, I've heard his name just thrown around so much about like this and that and stuff like that, but I may have heard that before.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy to think about. He's the guy that's on TV like telling us to be safe and all this from this thing that he supposedly created or helped create or funded.
All it makes me think about is like the video game Resident Evil. That's what it makes me think about.
Yeah,
Like the T virus is getting out.
yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, man. So the so okay, coming back to the Matrix. When like have you seen the new Matrix at all?
I've not.
It was trash.
Yeah,
Don't wa-
I've heard.
don't
That's what I've heard.
don't watch it. I love Keanu Reeves, but like goddamn son, that shit fucking sucked. It's kind of
Yeah,
like with like the first like have you seen Saw before?
I haven't seen them.
You haven't seen Saw?
I mean, I know what they are. I know enough. It never. I don't know. Never piqued my interest.
Okay, well, there's a million of them, but I feel like the original is like the best. It's kind of like makes me think about like Halloween. Like there's another fucking Halloween movie coming out. It's called Halloween Ends. And I put that in quotes because it's like, is it really fucking ending? Because like there's like 18 of them.
Yeah,
And like I fucking love Halloween, but like god damn. And I'm talking about like the actual fucking holiday. But like obviously it coincides with like the movie coincides with the holiday, but I'm rambling. But also I'm kind of tipsy at the same time. So
there you go.
yep. Anyways, all right. So, any other like conspiracy theories that maybe I've never heard of, or something that you want to talk about? Because I don't know.
Let's see. I mean, there's so many. Like everything kind of like ties in with each other. Like, um, I personally have my doubts about all these mass shootings that happen. I have my doubts that they're spontaneous and original. I don't doubt that they are planned and also managed and manipulated. Take the biggest one, the most recent one, the Texas one, Uvalde.
Yeah. So let, let's pause for a second.
Yeah.
So I actually went down there 2 days after it happened, and it was a very weird. It was weird going down there. So I went down there for business purposes, and I'd say about like more than 50% of like the businesses that I went into, which I had to go into a lot because, with what I do with my work, we have to service a lot of like customers because I work at UPS, or we're delivering packages, and um a lot of people had their businesses such as like Whataburger, or just a lot of restaurants and just random stores had fucking armed guards. And I'm like, well, that's a little reactive versus proactive. But then again, it comes back to what you were talking about. There's maybe some sort of plan, put that in quotes. I have no idea if there is or isn't, but it was very weird to go down there. But anyways, continue.
Well, just with that one in particular, the how does the guy walk around in dark clothing outside the school for like 15 plus minutes without, first of all, cops showing up at all? I think it was like almost 20 minutes where he was walking around the school, and then finally he finds a door that's just happens to be open. What school? What public school has just open doors like that where you can just walk up and just open the door and walk in? Like, especially like lately, like those doors are locked. Like they have procedures, they have drills and everything that they do. Those doors remain locked at all times. So the fact that somebody was able to just walk up and just gain entry like that is suspicious right off the bat.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I totally agree with you on that because, like, so again, I work at UPS, and if I ever have to go deliver or whatever, every now and again, I have to deliver to a school, whether it be at elementary, middle school, high school, whatever. Um, you know, I have to go to deliver all their packages to the office, and yeah, you do have to like hit a doorbell, and they have a camera, and they're like, "Hey, how can I help you?" UPS, I have a package, whatever. But like, it also makes me feel very weird that like it's one of those things where like when you're driving and a cop's behind you, you feel like you do something wrong. That's kind of how I feel whenever I ring a doorbell at a school.
yeah,
I don't really know how else to explain it, but yeah, no,
like you've
yeah,
got eyes on you, right?
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So how is this guy walking around for 20 minutes undetected and no one calls the police? And when they are called, it takes them like over 20 plus minutes to show up when the police station is 5 minutes down the road. They're literally
Okay,
5 minutes down the road.
so I don't really have details or facts about like this whole shooting, but like, do you know 100% that like that's how long he was actually outside of the school? And it,
Uh,
it
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that's the exact. I know it was like, I want to say it was no less than 10 minutes. I want to say it was like, I think the number I heard was like 13 to, I think it was 10 plus minutes. It was what I heard, that he was outside walking around the school. And he supposedly had just gotten done like shooting his grandma or something like that. And like, steals the truck and like just shows up with a gun and he's walking around for 10 plus minutes and not a cop in sight. And the police station is 5 minutes down the road. So there's some stuff that doesn't add up, but it actually goes even deeper than that. Like I think the Buffalo shooting in this past May with the supermarket in Buffalo, New York. Um, there are some sus things about that. Like they made like this whole thesis that the kid wrote. Supposedly he wrote it, and it contained like some sort of anti-Semitic something in it, and they used that to pass a bill for something in Congress, something to do with something totally unrelated to like guns and shooting. But they used like this one little quote that he said, and they used it to pass a bill in Congress. And some senator, I think from like Arizona or something, she tweeted like "Fed Boy Summer has started" after that shooting, because she's insinuating that the feds are orchestrating and they're planning and setting up these mass shootings. So and
ha-
also, apparently, in that one of the victims, the people that was shot in that supermarket, his name was, I don't know why I remember it. It's Aaron Salter was his name, and he was like on the verge of developing the a hydrogen powered engine, like basically your car can run on water. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, it was a hit job on him because if that came out and if vehicles technology, we could rely on just water to transport us, then that would put like oil and everything out of business. So they had to like kind of like send a hit job on him, which is funny because they did the same thing to somebody like back in like the 90s. Some guy named like Stanley Meyer or something like that. He had developed a hydrogen powered engine that could run on water, and it was basically done. And he had a meeting with somebody from the government, and after that meeting he had a heart attack. And it's just like just really weird, the timing and the coincidence of all that. Somebody gets close to developing a piece of technology that will change the way the entire world runs, they're gone. So it's kind of interesting. I'll send you that. You can look that up. The guy that was killed in the Buffalo supermarket, he had just kind of like had a breakthrough with the hydrogen powered engine.
Was it? I think I may know what you're talking. Was it was the guy from Texas?
He might have been. I think he was like a retired police officer or something like that. He might have been from Texas. I don't know.
Because I remember seeing some sort of like, I don't really watch the news, but like if I ever do see like a news report or something like that, it's going to be on social media,
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And I feel like I do remember seeing something about it was some black dude that made some sort of
That was him.
contraption.
Hmm.
Oh, so that motherfucker died?
He was one of the people shot and killed in the Buffalo supermarket. Coincidental, huh?
Yeah, that seems a little fishy. So
When literally the same thing happened like 20 years ago to another guy who was working on the same thing. And there's of course all the like scientists and like physicists or whatever saying it can't be done, like a vehicle, or you can't create an engine that runs solely on water. But apparently he had done it and like proven it. And he was meeting with the Fed, somebody from the government, to kind of like explore the possibility of mass producing it and all that. And he walked out of that lunch or dinner, whatever they had, and he had a heart attack. And he was otherwise in good health, apparently, according to everybody that knew him and his family. He was in perfect health, and then boom, heart attack.
that's some crazy shit, man. Have you ever heard of like MK Ultra?
Yeah, the
Oh,
mind control program from like like the Cold War and all that, CIA.
yeah. Well, so have you seen? I want to say this is a documentary, and I love documentaries, everybody. But there's a documentary on. I want to say it's Netflix. It's called Wormwood. Have you heard about that?
I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so good. What are your thoughts on MK Ultra?
I think it's pretty obvious that it went on, and I don't doubt that some form of it still goes on today.
So for everybody kind of tuning in, you want to explain exactly what MK Ultra was about?
Well, to my knowledge, MK Ultra was basically the CIA's sort of experimental mind control program, going all the way back to, I guess it was like, well, that documentary, I think it was like 1953 when that guy supposedly jumped out the window. So it was around, I guess, the 50s when that all started, and it was their experimental mind control program. And there were numerous stories that came out after that of other weird, crazy deaths of people, who were, connected in some way to the CIA. Apparently, they stopped it. They said that they stopped doing that, but can you believe them?
I mean, I'm gonna say no, but yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I don't. I mean, I think that stuff. I think it's actually pretty obvious now that it still goes on. Um, there's some people in politics and entertainment, and that they're controlled by somebody.
Yeah, it's a fucked up world we live in, everybody. I don't know, but so I think now I want to talk about like the most fucked up, I guess. I don't really know too much about it, but I just heard about it here recently. The most fucked up conspiracy theory or whatever it is that these people believe, but there are a certain group of people that are local to Dallas, Texas, that believe that John F. Kennedy is still alive. Have you heard about that?
I have not.
Okay, so I want to say this actually happened maybe a couple of months ago. Um, it was I don't necessarily know exactly where it happened. If I had to assume, it was probably kind of close to where John F. Kennedy was shot. Don't know exactly where it happened, but it was people that knew, and I put that in quotes, that he wasn't dead and he was coming back. You haven't heard about that?
I have not, but it doesn't it doesn't surprise me. And to be honest with you, like I said earlier, I don't uh, discredit anything. So I wouldn't. I don't say not saying I believe it, but I don't necessarily doubt it either. It's crazy. We live in a
What
crazy world.
What about Tupac? Is he still alive?
Can't say for sure. For real though, can't say for sure.
Oh, it's funny because like I
One
remember.
thing about the Tupac death is he died literally like it was less than a mile off the Vegas Strip where he was shot and killed, and there is literally no pictures of his body or any of the footage from the crime scene. There's literally, if you think about it, Vegas, like if soon as word got out that Tupac's been shot, that place would have been swarmed by people. Yet not a single picture was taken. Kind of weird. We had no pictures. Why is that? Vegas, of all people, or of all places, it's a less than a mile off the Strip, and you're telling me word got out that Tupac has been killed, and weren't people like thousands of people descending upon the scene within moments?
So okay, so let's kind of paint a picture. So I'm a if I remember correctly, maybe he was like leaving a casino or something like that. And I don't really know all the details, but like what is it, like 96, 97 when he was killed? What it was late 90s.
Yeah,
You know, smartphones aren't around. And I'm just kind of thinking outside the box of like, what the times were at that point, but I mean, there may have been some paparazzi around, whatever, but like,
there were enough cameras though back in that time period,
okay,
and there were
well,
enough, especially in Vegas. Like, can't. It's not that. Yeah, smartphones were not a thing yet, but there was there were definitely cameras, and you would think with such a high profile death that they would be around there taking pictures. And where are pictures of the body? Where are they? Don't
yeah, I don't
know.
know. I don't
There
know.
are none.
It kind of makes me think of like Michael Jackson. So I'm only apparently he was prescribed some like sort of like medication because he had some sort of like incident on set for his last tour that he was doing, which it was called "This Is It," and I feel like that's kind of like coincidental because like this is it, guys. This it's the last fucking tour, but somehow his head got on fire, and then some doctor prescribed him some sort of like I'm assuming because I don't really know some sort of like painkiller, and he fucking died because he OD'd on whatever it was that he was whatever he was taking. So, have you ever heard of like some sort of like conspiracy theory like in regards to like Michael Jackson?
I've heard a few things, but I haven't really heard too much about that. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
Wouldn't surprise me if there was something fishy going on with that too.
I don't know. You're the guy I'm gonna start going to for conspiracy theories now, Tyler.
I
So
don't know. It's I just find it's all very fascinating and interesting. And um, are you familiar at all with gematria? Do you know what that is?
I've never heard of that before.
Gematria is basically the um, so geometry is the numeric value of shapes. Gematria is the numeric value of letters. So let's for example, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, so on and so forth, all the way down through the alphabet. Um, and what kind of like piqued my interest in this is I follow a couple people on Instagram that use gematria to kind of like for lack of a better term, decode kind of like what is presented to us in the media. And I follow this guy. You should follow him too. He's a former NFL player. His name's Larry Johnson. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a
Yeah,
big
yeah, I've
time
heard of
running
them.
back. Basically, he kind of like got blackballed from the NFL, and everybody kind of said he has CTE and he's crazy because he's been posting a lot of like kind of like crazy shit on Instagram. So I followed him, and this was a couple years ago, and I was just kind of always entertained by his posts and everything. But he would post a lot of stuff using gematria, and to me, like it was like a foreign language that he was posting. Like I had no idea what he's talking about. Um, I kind of thought I kind of agreed with everybody else that he's crazy and everything, but kind of like little by little, the stuff that he's posting starts to make sense. And his kind of where he comes from is that the world that we live in, we're in a spiritual battle, and that's basically since what it's been since the origin, the history of this earth is good versus evil, and you have good fighting versus evil at all times. And um, I kind of like lose my train of thought sometimes when I think about this because it's so deep. And knowing that it's good versus evil, and knowing that the people that are in power in this world, almost all of them, you could argue are on the side of evil. And these powers that be, whether it's in government, Hollywood, entertainment, these people, he argues, are basically kind of like fighting the war on the side of Satan. And he argues that there's a lot of Satanists in Hollywood. There's a lot of Satanism in politics and all that. And they use basically straight from the handbook, the Bible of Satan. Numerology is a big thing in Satanism. And if you study Satanism and you know what they worship they worship numbers, and so numerology is huge in the occult and witchcraft and all that. And they put these numbers and stuff in the news headlines that we read. Like you'll see like the same numbers kind of like reappear in just like the same, like 33 people dead. This person died at 6:33 p.m. on 33rd Street. It's like the numbers that and I didn't understand it all. It sounded like just weird, like a foreign language to me, but I'm starting to kind of like understand what they're saying now is that they worship numerology and they kind of put it in our faces, sort of like Eyes Wide Shut, where they kind of just like put it right in your face. Kind of like they basically tell you their agenda without telling you their agenda, and they put it in all these headlines, all these events that we see in the world. Um, it's really wild to think about, but it's starting to make a lot more sense to me now. And he uses gematria to kind of like decode what it is that they are kind of saying in the news. And like you take it's crazy, like they argue that Kobe's death was a ritualistic sacrifice, and they use all the point they come up with all these different numbers that point to kind of like line up with their numerology. And it's actually just blows your mind to think about. um it's ritualistic sacrifice is big in Satanism and the occult, and we see it kind of like all the time. Supposedly, a lot of these rappers that die, a lot of these like famous people that just suddenly die, um, they argue it's a ritualistic sacrifice, and that's what they have to do to they sell their soul to Satan, and at some time, they know their day is coming because he's got to reap those souls. So I did a really, really bad job of explaining that. That's why I told you I wish I would have had like something more prepared because this stuff is so deep and it's really hard to understand, and especially when you're talking about gematria and numerology and all that stuff, and it's like a foreign language that you're trying to decode. But it makes sense in my head, but it's hard to really articulate it.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with you on being able to it doesn't matter what subject it is, whether it's like gematria or whatever, all this shit that you're talking about, or fucking Spanish or whatever the fuck. Like, if you can't like you can consume all that information, but it's very hard for you to be able to regurgitate that. And
Yeah.
I totally understand that. So
Yeah.
I find it very interesting. It's super. I like fucked up shit, which is fucked up that I like fucked up shit. But you know what? That's who I am. Everybody, get over it. So, yeah, Booby. I appreciate you getting on. So for everyone that didn't know, his nickname is Booby. Shout
I
out
haven't
to
heard that one in a while.
Booby Gibson. Shout out to the NBA player that played for the Cavs back in whoever the fuck knows what year. Appreciate you getting on, buddy. I love talking about all this stuff. I just love having good conversations in general. So,
It's fun to talk about. Yeah.
yeah. So looking forward to seeing your next chapter in life. I know you're getting married. You're getting ready to have a kid. It's going to be fucking
Can't wait.
awesome. So until next time, everybody, y'all have a good one. Peace.